Hi, I'm Jessie with the NCDA. I work in the soil testing lab, and I'm going to show you how to take a proper soil sample so that you get the most accurate lime and nutrient recommendations for your soil. I'm going to touch on some key information, but there will also be additional links below for more information if you need it. First, let's talk about when to sample.
For the fastest turnaround time and to avoid a sample fee, submit your samples between April and October. You'll want to sample your soil a few months before starting a project so that you have time to get your recommendations back from the lab, apply your lime and fertilizers, and give them time to take effect. Also, it's important to keep in mind that you'll need to delay sampling if the soil is wet or if you've limed your soil in the past 6 to 8 weeks. Wet soil won't homogenize properly during sampling, and recently limed soil will turn in incorrect data in the lab, which will alter your test results.
Once you've determined how many separate areas you're going to sample from, you're going to want to look at those areas and search for anomalies. These anomalies are going to want to be avoided when you're sampling.
The data collected in our lab is only as good as the sample that's submitted to us, so it's important for you to be able to take a representative sample of your soil. To take a representative sample, first identify the unique areas of your property that will have different fertilization needs. If you are growing grass on the left and a vegetable garden on the right side of your yard, for example, these will be sampled separately because they will have different soil requirements to maximize their yields. If your property is on a hill, it's a good idea to sample the top and bottom of the hill separately because topography can impact the amount of nutrients in the soil through erosion and drainage.
Now that you've got a sample plan, it's time to take a sample. I like to wear gloves when I do soil samples, but it's not required, it's completely optional. And you're going to want to make sure that your spade or trowel or shovel, whatever you want to take your sample with, is stainless steel so that way it's inert and it won't contaminate your sample with aluminum or zinc. And you want a plastic bucket that is also inert and will not throw off any of your recommendations either. You're going to want both of these to be relatively clean. And the way to clean out a bucket is to just dig a little bit of the soil around the area that you're going to be sampling and just swish it around and then toss that out. Now that you've got all your equipment nice and clean, we're ready to sample. This area is getting tested for grass, so I'm sampling 4 inches. But for a garden, you'll want to sample down 6 inches. So you want to keep that in mind because you want to think about the rooting depth of the plants that are growing there. So I'm going to take a spot and dig down in about 4 inches and put it in my bucket. And I want to remove the thatch from the top because that's not soil and it's just going to get filtered out anyway. Also, when you're doing this, keep track of any rocks that might be in there. You'll want to throw those out because that's also not a part of the soil, so we can't do anything with that. Now I've got 1 sample. You're going to want to, throughout your area, take 6 to 8 samples depending on the size of the area that you're wanting to sample, and then mix them all up together and put those into your box. So I'm going to go ahead and take my other 5 samples and then I'll meet you back and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so now I've got my composite sample, and this is all the samples for my lawn, and that's going to be what I take my representative sample from. I've already labeled my box and now I'm going to build it. So you push all the flaps out and then bring them back in. And now from this sample, I'm going to mix it up really well with my hand. And then we're going to go ahead and fill to the red line on the outside of my box. And so that's about right. Looks pretty good. I think that's okay. So you got some numbers on the flaps, I'm going to close 1 and 2. And there's my lawn sample. And the rest of this can go back into your yard and you can fill up some of your holes back up if you like.
I've taken all my samples and boxed them up, so now I've filled out a soil information sheet that I printed off from the NCDA website. I've filled out all my contact information legibly with waterproof ink and made sure to provide a working email address so that when my report is complete, I receive an email notification. The NCDA doesn't call or mail soil reports out, so the email address is very important. I've filled in the North Carolina county where the samples were taken and listed all my sample IDs as they are written on the sample boxes, as well as any lime I've applied in the past 12 months and the planting codes that correspond with each sample. Now my samples are ready to be sent into the lab for testing, so I've folded my information sheet into a long strip and tucked it under the flaps of my samples to keep everything together when I drop them off at the soil testing lab.
Thanks for joining me. I hope that this information was helpful. And if you need any more information, don't forget that we've got some links below to help out with that. Have a great day.